On February 21st, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. In his eulogy to Malcolm X, Ozzie Davis said, "Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this bold young captain, and we will smile. Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. This was his meaning to his people, and in honoring him, we honor the best in ourselves." His widow, Mrs. Betty Shabazz, tells of his childhood.
Well, his early life, his family was disrupted. His father was killed when he was 6, and his mother later went to a mental institution. So from the time he was about 6 years old on, he reared himself. He was in foster homes and boys' homes until he was about 15. And then he went for a year and a half and lived with a half-sister in Boston. And he was in prison, and it was kind of rugged, really.
After his release from prison, Malcolm X became a minister for the Nation of Islam. In his autobiography, Malcolm X said, "No sane black man really wants integration. No sane white man really wants integration. The only solution is complete separation from the white man."
And one of the facts in your estimation is that Negro and white can never live together in America, can never coexist.
Well, evidently, the white man feels that the Negro can never live with him because it's the white man who is stopping integration. I'm not the one who is stopping Negroes from integrating with whites. I'm not the one who keeps Negroes from integrating white schools. And so don't put the burden of proof on me. It is the white man himself who is guilty and whose guilt proves that the Negro and the white man can't live side by side. Now, if I'm wrong in saying they can't, just prove that I'm wrong by doing it, or just show me one place where it's done. If it can't be done in New York City, it won't be done anywhere in this country.
Malcolm X became one of the best-known ministers in the Nation of Islam, but he was silenced for 90 days after the assassination of President Kennedy.
Malcolm, would I be correct in saying you're going to initiate a new movement in this country?
No, I don't think I'm equipped to initiate a new movement, but it's my intention to take the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and make them work on a broader level.
How long has this been building up, this decision to make the change?
Well, I have been able to see for some time that it's that I do run into obstacles in trying to help him within the movement. So I want to help him just that bad, just that much. So it's my intention to try and do it now in the only way that I know how. And I think I can do it better without the restrictions that I would run into by being a part of the Muslim movement in this country. That is, the Muslim movement as it now exists.
How severe were the restrictions these past 90 days?
Oh, during the past 90 days, they were most severe. I've been completely silent.
Not able to talk is a real affliction for you, is that right?
Not only have I not been able to speak as a Muslim, I haven't even been able to speak as a man.
Actually, going back to that incident, you have told me on other occasions that you didn't actually say you were glad the president was dead. What did you say, Malcolm?
No, my subject that day was God's judgment of white America. And I showed the different incidents that had been building up, step by step, the fulfillment of prophecy, and that all of these things that were taking place were the result of some seeds that were badly sown, or some bad seeds that were sown. And the death of the president I referred to as the result of other things, a combination of things. And surprisingly, this is what the whole country was saying, that it was a climate of hate. So chickens coming home to roost means the same thing.
And this is what you said, chickens were coming home to roost.
Yes.
But in no time did you say you were glad the president...
No, I did say this, that it pleases me to see that the wisdom of the prophets, these ancient prophets, was so vast that they could foresee these things exactly as they were to come to pass thousands of years ago. This was part of my lecture that day, and they twisted it.
In April 1964, Malcolm made his first pilgrimage to Mecca.
Malcolm, on your trip abroad, you said you sensed a feeling of great brotherhood, and that conceivably you would be working toward integration in this country now. At least this is what you're reported to have said. Have you any comment on it?
I don't think that I ever mentioned anything about working toward integration. If I recall, I pointed out that while I was at Mecca making the pilgrimage I spoke about the brotherhood that existed at all levels and among all people who were there on that Hajj, who had accepted the religion of Islam. I mean, perhaps it could drive some of the racism from this society as it has driven racism from the Muslim society.
Do you accept integration as a possible solution to the racial problem in this country?
No, people cloud the issue when they bring in the word integration. Integration can't even be defined. This is one of the reasons why it hasn't been realized.
When a letter was written back and it was published in the New York Times, I think Mr. Handler published it, a lot of people felt that he was becoming an integrationist, which was not true. He had gone to Mecca and he had merely written about what he saw, and people reported it as if, you know, he had gone there and planted these people there. So this was an observation on his part, and he was not in the least becoming an integrationist. His role was forever the fight for black freedom. He wanted to raise the level of the struggle from one of civil rights to one of human rights, and he felt that civil rights confined our struggle or our fight for freedom to the borders of the United States. And if we internationalized our struggle, if we got allies, and everyone realized the importance of getting allies, even this country in the Revolutionary War. They sent people all over forming correspondence committee to explain their plight to the world and trying to get allies. And I think the French and the British and Spain joined this country in helping her win her independence. And just like they needed allies, you know, the black people needed allies, and I think this was one of the reasons for his trips.
Well, my purpose here is to remind the African heads of state that there are 22 million of us in America who are also of African descent, and to remind them also that we are the victims of America's colonialism or American imperialism, and that our problem is not an American problem, it's a human problem. It's not a Negro problem. It's a problem of humanity. It's not a problem of civil rights, but a problem of human rights.
And what do you hope for from this conference?
Well, we hope to bring pressure upon them, or rather we hope to impress upon them the importance of their bringing pressure and world opinion upon the United States to take some meaningful effort to solve our problem in America. We want them to help us get our problem before the United Nations and charge America with violating our human rights, in the same way that South Africa is charged with violating the human rights of our people in that area.
And what sort of reaction have you been getting from the African leaders?
Well, I've gotten a good reaction, a very sympathetic reaction, and an understanding reaction. Many of them had been misinformed by the American government into thinking that black people in America don't identify with Africa, and therefore they've restrained themselves from voicing their interest in our problem. But I've impressed upon them that our problem is their problem, as well as their problems are our problems.
Through continuous struggle, Malcolm X attempted to unify the civil rights movement with black nationalism. He speaks to students in Selma, Alabama, a few weeks before his death.
And now, if the federal government does not find it within its power and ability to investigate a criminal organization such as the Klan, then you and I are within our rights to wire Secretary General Uthar of the United Nations and charge the federal government in this country behind Lyndon B. Johnson with being derelict in its duty to protect the human rights of 22 million black people in this country. And in their failure to protect our human rights, they are violating the United Nations Charter, and they are not qualified to continue to sit in that international body and talk about what human rights should be done in other countries on this earth. I have to say this, and I'll sit down. Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill him. They'd send some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said.
You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were two kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master. Good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" He was as sick as the master. When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes. They ate the worst food. And they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh, yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes. I'm a field Negro. If I can't live in the house as a human being, I'm praying for a wind to come along. If the master won't treat me right and he's sick, I'll tell the doctor to go in the other direction. But if all of us are going to live as human beings, as brothers, then I'm for a society of human beings that can practice brotherhood. So before I sit down, I want to thank you for listening to me. I hope I haven't put anybody on the spot. I'm not intending to try and stir you up and make you do something that you wouldn't have done anyway. I pray that God will bless you in everything that you do. I pray that you will grow intellectually so that you can understand the problems of the world and where you fit into in that world picture. And I pray that all the fear that has ever been in your heart will be taken out. And when you look at that man, if you know he's nothing but a coward, you won't fear him. If he wasn't a coward, he wouldn't gang up on you. He wouldn't need to sneak around here. This is how they function. They function in mobs. That's a coward. They put on a sheet so you won't know who they are. That's a coward. No. The time will come when that sheet will be ripped off. If the federal government doesn't take it off, we'll take it off.
Although some of us may have disagreed with Malcolm X, or we disagree with each other about him, let his going from us serve to bring us together.